Hi, I'm Mark Cleghorn. Welcome to the Photographer Academy, and today we're talking about making an angel. And as you can see here from these three images, we've basically got a shot of the kind of the lighting and the room set in my studio on the left hand side. Then basically the image that we're going to be working on today as far as the JPEG is concerned, that's JPEG out of camera. Obviously we'd usually work from the raw file, which we will do today. And then we've got the finished image on the right hand side. So the first things first, even though we're seeing the studio flash here actually in position, let's just escape out of this a minute and just kind of go closer. So even though you can see the studio, we've got a small octa up in the boom arm here. In fact, the image we're going to be working on is daylight based alone, and as you might be able to see, we've got these reflector panels on each side, and they're going to be actually pushed in very, very close towards the model, who's Ashley for the day. And then basically we're using the natural light coming through from the window itself to actually have all the light itself. Okay, so let's grab the raw file, let's open it into raw, and then we'll start to work on the image. So obviously things like correction of color, lightness, brightness is everything that we would be doing here. I'd usually be using in the basic panel first, of course, where we would be controlling things like density, correction, color, contrast, etc. Pretty much as is though, I do want this kind of warmth, and I do want a kind of a non-contrasty image. So probably for the first time in my life, I'm going to open an image into Photoshop without actually doing anything to it. Remember, we've got raw in the likes of Photoshop anyway, so we can come back to that at any stage. So as we can see here in this image, this is the kind of the final finished photograph. And we've got lots of different layers kind of taking part here. The main ones to look at, obviously we've got a sky, we've got a white background, we've got two render cloud, we've got a black with some flare on it, and basically we've got a copy of the actual body above and things ready. So there's several actually of the angel above, as you can see. So let's look at this in turn and just see what we need to actually kind of achieve. So the first thing is going to be is let's just make a selection. So I'm just going to go into select and subject, allow the Photoshop Ninja, whatever it's called, Sensei, to actually try and do its job and things really. It's not bad at all. Just going to pick up my Lasso Tool, pressing the shift, and basically then adding in the little parts that it hasn't seen, obviously things like the wings. I'm just going to remove some bits as well, just actually that extra little bit of highlight on the top part of the wing there, as well as that part. Then we're going to go down and just actually remove this white just adjacent to the leg, and we're just going to add in that little area of the hand there and everything else with it. And pretty much we've done enough of what we kind of really need. Probably the only thing that we're going to need to take care of is this kind of area here. So we could always swap from the lasso itself to the magnetic lasso. In the same way, just pressing and holding the Alt key as we kind of just slowly drag down the edge of the leg, that will actually find the edge. And then basically, once that's done, clicking up here, hitting the control, that will actually finish off the selection, and you can see we've done a better selection on here then. But because we're going to have so much flare going all over the place here, for the first time we don't really need to be too exact about what is going on. We've got the kind of basic elements. What we don't want to lose is obviously the face. So let's add in that little missing piece there. We'll add the top here, top of the hair, coming all the way around. And that's got her in. Okay, so there is a little bit this kind of jaggedness of the feathering, in fact, that we kind of took out. So I think we should bring that back in again, because that is a little bit of the halo effect around the actual wing, and I didn't realize that. So let's bring that back in. Cool, done. Right, so now we can just go to Control J. Obviously we could have used like select and mask and everything else with it and things really, but we've got a good enough kind of selection for now. So I want to just quickly add a little bit of a liquify going on to the kind of the leg here and so on with it, just squeezing the waist a little bit more. It is a fantasy kind of portrait anyway, so I need to add that little bit more of a kind of a fantasy body, just actually listen to what the client likes about themselves and so on. So I could either duplicate the layer. I'm just going to work directly on this selection layer that we've done, hitting the Liquify tool, and then we're looking at the forward warp tool. We're going to be using quite a large brush, and then I just need to actually freeze, before I do any of the liquifying, I need to freeze this wing. So just going to go up here, clicking onto the freeze, and just basically going up there, freezing everything that I might touch, including the hand and the arm. Okay, just there, it's cool. Also going to just freeze this wing just by here, and then we'll go in and grab the Liquify tool itself, just there. Right, so forward warp tool, big brush, just go into, oh, I should have frozen a little bit more there, in fact. Just coming down here. And then back up into our forward move. I'll shrink it down just a touch more. Squeeze the hip in there, squeeze the waist just in there a little bit more as well. Move the hand with it, slight little change on the leg shape, a little bit more thinning down at the bottom of the leg. Remember, this is a fantasy portrait, so I just need to add that little bit more of a body sculpting in. Okay, so we're pretty much there, and we're now ready to kind of rock. So we know we need to affect some other things going on in the background. I would, at this stage, probably encourage you, if this was where you're going to work from, is save this now as a PSD, so you can kind of work through your layers in case you're going to get a crash. It doesn't often happen nowadays, but be aware of things. I want to go and just open my cloud. So let me just go in and just back into my bridge. Go get my sky one. Just dragging this on top. Pressing the shift key and deleting it, drag it below, and pretty much we're there. I'm going to shut the sky down now. I want to add above here a white layer. So remember, D for default resets these background and the foreground colors. To put the background, we need to press the Control and the backspace. That fills it directly with white. And we're just going to add a blend mode of screen. And then we can reduce the opacity down to whatever feels kind of good. I think we did before about 20%. That's good. It just kind of adds that little bit of lightness and brightness to it. Then we're going to go and add in, as I said, these render cloud effects. So we're just going to go once more. We're going to go up into filter, and we're going to go into render, and we're going to put in clouds. Don't worry too much about what it looks like, because remember, we are going to put it into screen. We are going to reduce this down in its kind of amount anyway, about 20% again. I'm going to duplicate that before I do anything else, so just duplicate that straight away. You can start to see the kind of the fakey cloud on the top now, but to each of these going to add a little bit of a flare. So I'm just going to go into filter, render, and lens flare. First things first, I'm going to work on the top right hand side. I want it quite large. Let's see the difference in the whether it's the prime or whether it's, so I want that flare coming down here as well, so we'll use the prime, just increasing that a little bit more and just pressing OK. Now we'll go to the other one as well, and we'll go filter, render, and lens flare. We don't want to use the one that is at the top here already, that one we just did, because it will put it in the same place. So we're going to go to render and then back into lens flare, slightly to the other side now, a little bit bigger, pressing OK, and it starts to actually add in that lovely kind of light. Now that's just our kind of hazy light, that's all that is. For instance, I'm just going to go in now and add another one, a filter and a render and lens flare, and I'm going to put it coming from the bottom. So in other words, because she's somewhere between earth and heaven, as it were, I'm going to add it in from this bottom left hand side. Not as much though. Pressing OK. So it just brings that little bit of kind of glow up here. Now we're going to go in and add a new layer. This time we're going to fill it with black. Okay, so Alt and the backspace now. That's the foreground, and then just going from there. And the black we're going to put into screen anyway, so we can't see it. But we are going to go into filter, render, and then basically our lens flare again. And these are going to be our main effects now. So this is the one that is really going to kind of show up. It's going to show it with all the haze and everything else. Okay, you can see it. I'm going to do the second render lens flare on the same layer. You could do it on a different one. So filter, render, lens flare again. Remember, we're kind of matching about what we're kind of doing. Don't want quite the same flare. So I'm going to take it into a slightly different kind of look and feel. Pressing OK, let's make that just a little bit bigger, pressing OK. Yeah, we've got that double kind of flare coming in here. Once more though, filter and render and lens flare. Just going to do it from the bottom now, as I mentioned to you before, to kind of just add in that little bit more. Just going to press OK. And there's our kind of look and feel. So I don't like that as much. I'm going to press Control Z to undo that. Back into filter. This time now I am going to go in and do it on a different layer. Okay, so remember, back into screen, filter and the render and the lens flare. Oh, wrong button, Mark. Gonna go here, but not quite as much. Pressing OK. Now at least I can start to actually dial it back now with the opacity. What I didn't want to do was dial it back on the others. So before I do anything else, I'm just going to kind of save this file for now. So I'm just going to go into File and Save As. And we'll just put it into our angel. And we'll just call it Angel Working. Photoshop file. Because of all the layers, I want to actually keep those for now. So once we've saved the file, we can kind of start to work on, because we've saved the multiple layers, then we're pretty much kind of heading in the right direction. What I'm going to do to begin with is duplicate this top angel first though. So I'm just going to do Control J, yes. Then I'm going to actually switch that one off and slide this angel layer below the kind of the very high key flares that we've created on those blacks. So you can see the difference now is that without her underneath there, basically we don't have all this lovely kind of flaring going on and so on. There's some little elements though I don't want, like actually the marking actually onto the hair and so on, but we're pretty much kind of getting really close and things. So I'm just going to now flatten this whole thing except for those kind of two layers. So now as you can see, the fantasy part, remember, technically all I needed to do once these are done is go and get another angel cut out and put her into the actual cloud flare effect. Remember, she is beneath here, so basically without her in place I've still got all my clouds and everything else with it, and then these top layers are actually having the effect. So I could save it as a master file and just slip the new image between the actual flare on the black and the actual red, the clouds. Okay, once I've done that, of course, as I said, all I'm going to do is select all those layers and kind of flatten those down. Oops, wrong button. Should have flattened them all, in fact. Let me go there, Control E. And so now what I want to do is just add in these extra little bits to the kind of the photograph itself with it and things. So first things first, as it were, if I basically now create that layer, yeah, and at the same time I basically fill it with the black. Remember, that's the Alt. Then B for brush, D for default, and then X to put the actual black on top. But obviously we do want the white, so X again. Going in close now, little bit smaller with the brush. Now, this is where the masking might not work. We might need to actually clone this in. So let's first of all try it. So remember, what we're working on is this mask. We're working at the kind of the full opacity, and we're just going to actually kind of paint these out, as you can see. So straight away it did it great there actually on the flare. Don't like the one actually on the chest, so we'll bring that back. A little bit less opacity to kind of allow it to blend together. And we're pretty much beginning to work there as well. So I would just say that that other kind of dot on the wing, we want to get rid of that as well. Okay, I'm happy with this as we are. Shift Control Alt E. Now this is a copy of all the layers visible, and now I'm just going to go into, again, start to add the extra little bit of flares to disguise the kind of the halo and around the butt, a little bit more kind of dramatic kind of elements, especially around the hands and everything else, to take the importance away. So filter, render, and lens flare. And at this point, this is really what we're kind of working on, is our kind of overall effect. If you're in doubt, duplicate the layer and start to actually work from there. So pressing OK. So that's great. I'm going to add in another one, filter, render, and lens flare. At this point, we're going to put it up near the top. So just on the top of the wings. I'm going to press OK. Yep. Then we're going to go to filter, render, and the lens flare again. At this point, we're going to put it into the top part of the wing, slightly less in size. Pressing OK. Then we're going to add another one down at this bottom part. So filter, render, and lens flare. Once more, sticking it just down here by the hand, making it a little bit bigger. Remember, we are in a fantasy image. That's what we're trying to create. And then I'm pretty much happy with that. Probably actually one just down here a little bit more. So filter, render, lens flare again. Bring it right down towards the leg, right on the edge. Let's kind of extend it out a little bit more so it goes more hazy. Great. I'm going to filter, render, and lens flare again. This time I'm going to put it over near the other hand. Change it in size to a touch more. Press OK. And I think then just one more, final one, render, lens flare. I'm going to put it on this tip of the wing here. So just kind of bringing this up towards here. Let's change the style of the flare as well. Pressing OK. Okay, so we're pretty much there. So we can see the difference now with all the kind of the different ones going on. The part we've got to really look at, though, is all these kind of dots on the face. And that's probably where we're going to have to take most of our work now. So with that done, let's just add in a mask. Just going to click this on here, and because I didn't press the Alt key, it fills it with white straight away, of course. Then I want B for brush, D for default, and then X to put black on top. And then all we're going to do is start to actually paint away the kind of the areas we don't want to have the kind of the marking on and things. Plus we can start to bring some definition back into the face. We can always kind of go back in and just soften this down in a minute. But the key thing will be is to actually just get rid of the kind of the halos that we've put on. If we're kind of removing this white kind of level, remember all we need to do is add in another mask, X now, and then we'll kind of go in and paint white onto the part that we want. Yeah. So just in here, so we're going to kind of match it in together. We're going to go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. Just kind of blurring that quite a lot. Yep. Then reducing this down, let's put it into screen mode first. Soft light, in fact. I think that's pretty much it, in fact. But of course we can still go in and we can still paint on the parts here as well to actually lighten the elements around the image. And there is our finished making of an angel. Hope you enjoyed this kind of session. It's great to actually get a little bit creative with an image, as well as obviously kind of taking a photograph in studio environment and then take it to a whole new level. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.